time he was about 3 years old, I would take him to a mother and toddler group, and he would sit there and play games with the other children, but I noticed he would get bored very easily, and he would wander away from the other children. He didn't want to be with them. And I was a little concerned, but not too overly concerned because of his age. He was only 3 years old. So to entertain Adrian, I would read him stories, and he would love to just sit there and be read stories to, and he was so intelligent in as much that he would remember all the parts of the story, and he would just, please mummy, mummy, read me again. He would just love the story so much. He'd just want the same story over and over again. He just really enjoyed being read to. And for a 3-year-old, I thought that was very smart, very intelligent. By the time Adrian was 4 years old, he was able to read whole books by himself. And I realized that that was quite an accomplishment for a child of his age. And in no time at all, he was writing and could write whole passages for a child again at that age. That was incredible. His father and I tried very hard to encourage him in anything he wanted to do. We wanted to foster the intelligence in the child because he was just so bright.
Adrian started showing signs of a higher than average intellectual capacity at the age of 3. As Adrian grew, his intellectual development progressed. Adrian began to show elements of being extremely gifted. Gifted children or giftedness is often demonstrated by excellent memory, vocabulary or attention span. For most gifted children, childhood is more pleasurable and more fulfilling because they derive joy from challenge and reward from work. With the progression of age came changes in Adrian's emotional and physical behaviour. This was enhanced even more so by his development through puberty. Professor of Psychology, Miss Rio Summers, who has studied exceptional children, gives a breakdown.
During the first years of a child prodigy's life, it's very, very easy for them to interact with their peers. Their educational needs and their IQ level is taken into account by the educational system. They're allowed to play with their normal playmates, children of their age. They don't experience any difficulties. Life's a breeze. They do their work, their set work to suit their educational, their abilities, their intelligence abilities, and they still get to play with the children. But during the times of puberty, which is very difficult anyway, also comes a segregation into sets. They're put into higher groups. They are setted into groups a lot higher than themselves, but than their age level. So their intellectual level is taken care of, but their emotional IQ is not accounted for. They are mixing with people of a lot higher age group. Their peer group are still left behind in the lower classes. They're moving up. A child of 13 can be working with 15, 16, 17, up to 20-year-old. They can be doing degrees. To try and fit in to be a 13-year-old with puberty, extra work, and having to fit in with a whole new social group, the isolation is just unbearable.
By the time Adrian had reached his teen years, the problems he was having became very apparent. He became more and more isolated from his family. His love of reading and writing and even music just didn't seem to be there. He just couldn't seem to connect. He certainly didn't get on with children of his own age and teenagers of his own age. He had nothing in common with any of them. And because he was such an intelligent boy by this time, he was already in university. And there was also the problem that because of his age, he didn't relate to the students of 18, 19, 20. He couldn't relate to those either.
University life is socially domineered. Most students who attend these educational institutions, despite their age, find it sometimes to be trying. One form of release is to be socially active. Most students take pleasure in visiting their local pub, but for Adrian Bishop, a boy of 15 who was unable to attend such activities, found socialising to be a very daunting experience.
Adrian, I remember him from a few lessons that we had together with him. What stuck in my mind was when we'd all be outside in groups waiting to go into the lecture, he'd always walk in by himself because we'd all be talking about where we went the night before, how many drinks we had had, what had happened, how many girls we had fought. But Adrian, him being only 15, 16, however old he was, he had nothing to relate to, so I'd always remember him just wandering into the lecture hall by himself, singing in a far corner and just never really mixing with anyone else, which, well, can't blame him really because he had nothing to relate to with us because we're all 5, 6, 7, 8 years even older than him.
I don't think I was that keen on him going to university because I realised at 14 years old university was going to be so different to what a 14-year-old should be doing. But none more for that, he went anyway, and he would spend hours and hours in his room studying, listening to music. He loved classical music, and that in itself was unlike most 14-year-olds. Most 14-year-olds were into pop music. Not Adrian. He loved classical music. And he would spend so many hours in his room, and I would call him down for his supper, but he wouldn't come down. He would stay in his room, and sometimes I would hear him crying. And I would try talking to him. His father would try talking to him. We'd try to find out what was going on. What was going on in his mind? Why was he so upset? But this behaviour just caused him to become more and more isolated from everyone. He had no friends in university. He was too young. And he'd lost any contact with friends he had at school, and he no longer interacted with his brother. There was no contact there with his brother. So more and more, Adrian became more and more isolated. He became more and more driven where his work was concerned. And he wasn't happy unless he could get the highest grade. And this seemed to be his main goal. He just had to get the highest mark there was. And his father and I told him it didn't matter. He didn't have to be perfect. He didn't have to be so driven in his work. But this is how he was. It had to be 100%, or he wasn't happy. He just seemed to be living in his own little world, and nobody could get into his little world.
Whoever it may be, gifted child is stuck in the middle. They don't fit in anywhere. They're just shut off. They can't go out with their older lot. They can't go out with the younger lot. All they can do is work. That's all they've got. The pressure is enormous.
We tried talking to him, but nothing changed. And then when he was 15 years old, I went shopping one day, and I came home and I called for him, but there was no answer, and I couldn't hear any music playing. And I went into his room, and there he was on the floor. He'd taken all these tablets, and he was just collapsed in a coma on the floor. And that was the end of Adrian.
The scenario depicted within this programme cannot be used as an example or a metaphor for all gifted children. All gifted children are individuals, as are we, and so therefore must be treated as such. It would seem that Adrian was an exceptional and gifted young man. His memory lives on.